Have you forgotten already the doom that hangs over you?
I cannot let this go unanswered.
We must do what we should have done in the first. Burn the villains out.
Wait but a while longer.
At what cost?
On your guard!
What if I told you the biggest threat to Rhaenyra in Episode 6 isn't another dragon, it's her own decisions? The brand new House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 6 trailer quietly reveals that while Rhaenyra is focused on fighting enemies outside the walls, the Greens are already tearing her kingdom apart from the inside. We also see the shocking return of the Moon Door, Aemond still wandering without Vhagar, demons secretly moving through King's Landing, and several Blinkennul clues that could completely change how the rest of Season 3 plays out. But one tiny detail near the end of the trailer may have just spoiled the Greens' entire strategy, and if that theory is true, Rhaenyra is walking straight into a trap she doesn't even realize has already been set. Let's break down every hidden detail, every Easter egg, and every major clue from the Episode 6 trailer. The Episode 6 trailer opens with an atmosphere that feels completely different from the previous episodes. Instead of dragons immediately filling the screen, the focus is on strategy, fear, and political warfare. That's actually a huge clue because House of the Dragon has always shown that the most dangerous battles are usually the ones that happen before the dragons even take flight. One of the first lines we hear talks about exposing Rhaenyra as weak, little by little, bite by bite. That single sentence may explain the entire direction of Episode 6. The Greens no longer seem interested in defeating Rhaenyra through one massive battle. Instead, they're trying to slowly destroy her reputation until the people lose faith in her. And honestly, that's probably a much smarter strategy than simply attacking King's Landing head-on. Throughout the trailer, we repeatedly see signs that life inside King's Landing is getting worse. The small folk are frustrated, the gold cloaks are under attack, and fear seems to be spreading through the streets. None of these problems happen by accident. The trailer almost wants us to notice that someone is carefully creating chaos behind the scenes. If that's true, then the Greens are winning a different kind of war, the war for public opinion. We've already seen throughout Season 3 that Rhaenyra genuinely wants to be a good ruler, but being a good ruler and looking like a strong ruler are two very different things. That's exactly where her enemies seem to be attacking. One of the smartest moments in the trailer is how it keeps cutting between Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne and scenes of unrest across the city. The editing almost makes it feel like every decision she makes creates another problem somewhere else. Whether that's actually happening or whether the trailer is simply creating that illusion doesn't really matter. The audience, and more importantly the people inside King's Landing, only see the result. If they believe Rhaenyra has lost control, then the Greens don't even need to conquer the city themselves. The people may begin turning against her naturally. Another interesting moment comes when Rhaenyra says she can't let these attacks go unanswered. At first, that sounds exactly like the response we'd expect from a queen under pressure. But when you really think about it, this could be the mistake the trailer is warning us about. Every time someone forces Rhaenyra to react emotionally instead of strategically, they're controlling the pace of the war. Instead of making the Greens respond to her moves, she's responding to theirs. That's a dangerous position for any ruler to be in. The trailer also gives us another look at Daemon, and surprisingly, he doesn't appear to be leading an army or riding a dragon. Instead, he seems to be moving quietly through the city disguised as a gold cloak. That's fascinating because Daemon is usually the character who solves problems with fire and blood. Seeing him investigate something in secret suggests that even he realizes this conspiracy can't simply be burned away. Someone is operating inside King's Landing, and Daemon wants to find them before they cause even more damage. This could also explain why the attacks on the gold cloaks are becoming such a major storyline. If someone is secretly eliminating loyal guards while replacing them with spies or traitors, then Rhaenyra's own capital may already be compromised. That would mean the Greens have found a way to fight without risking dragons at all. It's psychological warfare, sabotage, and political manipulation rolled into one plan. Then we arrive at one of the trailer's most interesting transitions. We suddenly see Aemond Hightower confidently speaking about patience. His line about the patient hunter eventually getting the kill feels far more important than it first appears. Hunters don't charge recklessly toward their prey. They wait. They watch. They slowly force their target into making mistakes. That sounds almost identical to what's happening with Rhaenyra throughout this trailer. Every crisis forces her to make another difficult decision while the Greens simply keep tightening the trap. What's even more dangerous is that Aemond doesn't seem worried at all. Despite the Blacks having more dragons, he behaves like someone who already knows something his enemies don't. That confidence suggests there's another part of the Greens' plan we still haven't seen. Maybe it involves King's Landing. Maybe it involves Tumbleton. Or maybe it involves someone inside Rhaenyra's own circle. The biggest clue supporting that theory is how the trailer constantly shifts between political conversations and military preparations. Normally, trailers build toward a huge battle. This one builds toward a huge conspiracy. That alone tells us episode May 6th not just be about dragons fighting in the sky. It may be about discovering who has been quietly reshaping the entire war from the shadows. And if that's true, then Rhaenyra's greatest mistake may not be losing a battle at all. Her greatest mistake could be underestimating just how patient and just how clever the Greens have become. One of the biggest surprises hidden inside the episode 6 trailer has nothing to do with dragons at all. Instead, it takes us back to one of the most unforgettable locations in all of Westeros, the Moon Door. Fans of the original Game of Thrones immediately recognize this place because it's where justice in the Vale often comes with a very short drop. The moment the trailer shows Lady Jane Arryn standing near the Moon Door while screams echo through the castle, it's impossible not to wonder the same question. Is someone actually about to be executed, or is the trailer cleverly making us think that? Either way, the return of the Moon Door isn't random. House of the Dragon rarely brings back iconic locations unless they have an important purpose in the story. The trailer seems to suggest that Rhaenyra has returned to the Eyrie, and that immediately raises several questions. Why would she risk coming back now? The Vale has been one of the safest locations for the Blacks throughout the war, but safety only lasts as long as secrets stay hidden. Rhaenyra is currently connected to one of the biggest mysteries in Season 3, Sheepstealer. The longer she keeps that secret, the more dangerous it becomes. Every episode makes it feel less likely that the truth can stay buried forever. Lady Jane's expression throughout these scenes is especially interesting. She doesn't look relieved to see Rhaenyra. Instead, she almost looks disappointed or frustrated, as though someone has made a decision that could create massive consequences. That matches one of the trailer's opening themes perfectly. Small mistakes slowly become huge disasters. If Rhaenyra eventually discovers that Daemon knew about Sheepstealer and never told her, the betrayal could seriously damage the trust between them. And considering how fragile alliances already are, trust might be even more valuable than dragons. The screams coming from the Moon Door make the entire sequence even more unsettling. The trailer never actually shows who is falling. That's almost certainly intentional. House of the Dragon trailers love creating mystery by showing the reaction instead of the event itself. We hear the scream, we see the Moon Door, but we never get confirmation of what actually happened. That leaves plenty of room for speculation. Maybe someone is truly being executed. Maybe it's simply another prisoner. Or maybe the trailer is mixing completely unrelated scenes together just to fool us. HBO has done that many times before. Still, from a storytelling perspective, showing the Moon Door again serves another purpose. It reminds viewers that every region of Westeros has its own way of handling justice and loyalty. The Vale has remained mostly untouched compared to the chaos spreading across King's Landing and the Riverlands. But that peace may not last much longer. If Rhaenyra's secret begins pulling the Vale directly into the dance, then even one of the safest places in the Seven Kingdoms could become another battlefield. At the same time, the trailer quietly hints that another conflict is growing beneath the surface. The relationship between Daemon and Rhaenyra has improved since the beginning of Season 3, especially after Daemon's strange journey through Harrenhal. His visions seemed to change him. He appeared more loyal, more focused, and more willing to support Rhaenyra instead of chasing his own ambitions. But the Sheepstealer storyline threatens to undo all of that progress. Think about it from Rhaenyra's perspective. If she learns that Daemon knew an unclaimed dragon had been found, knew someone close to her had bonded with it, and chose not to tell her, she won't just see it as keeping a secret. She'll probably see it as another betrayal. Throughout this series, information has often been just as powerful as armies. The person who controls knowledge usually controls the next move in the game.
What's fascinating is that the trailer never actually confirms whether Rhaenyra learns the truth in Episode 6. Instead, it creates a growing sense that the secret can't survive much longer. Every time the camera cuts back to Rhaenyra, it feels like the clock is ticking. Someone is going to discover what's happening. And when they do, the political consequences may be even bigger than the military ones. Another clever detail is how these veil scenes are placed between moments of growing tension in King's Landing. The trailer constantly jumps between different storylines, but they all share one common idea: pressure. Every character is under pressure from somewhere. Rhaenyra is struggling to maintain control of the capital. Daemon is chasing conspirators hiding in plain sight. Rhaenyra is protecting a dangerous secret. And Lady Jane appears to be balancing loyalty with responsibility. None of these problems exist on their own. They're all slowly connecting into one much larger crisis. Then there's the symbolism of the moon door itself. In Game of Thrones, falling through the moon door usually represented the final consequence of someone's choices. There was no escape once that door opened. Bringing it back now almost feels symbolic. Several characters are reaching the point where their earlier decisions are about to catch up with them. Whether it's Rhaenyra's political choices, Daemon's silence, or Rhaenyra's secret, every storyline seems to be approaching a moment where someone must finally face the consequences. And that's what makes these scenes so effective. On the surface, the trailer is simply revisiting a famous location from Westeros. But underneath that, it's quietly reminding us of one of the biggest themes in House of the Dragon. Every secret has a cost. Every delay makes the truth more dangerous. And eventually, just like the moon door itself, there's no way to stop someone from falling once the trap has already been opened. One of the most fascinating storylines in the Episode 6 trailer has to be Aemond's journey at Harrenhal. For the first time since becoming one of the most feared characters in the series, Aemond is almost completely separated from the one thing that has always defined him, Vhagar. And that changes everything. Ever since Season 1, whenever Aemond entered a battle, everyone immediately thought about the biggest dragon in the world. Vhagar wasn't just his weapon. She became part of his identity. But now, Episode 6 keeps reminding us that Aemond is standing completely on his own. What's interesting is that the trailer never actually shows Vhagar beside him. Instead, we see Aemond walking through Harrenhal, carrying Blackfyre at his side, looking over his shoulder as if he's constantly expecting danger. That's a completely different version of the character we've been watching. Before, Aemond always seemed untouchable because Vhagar could erase almost any problem within seconds. Without her, every decision suddenly becomes much more dangerous. The trailer even shows him inside what looks like the stables at Harrenhal, slowly reaching for Blackfyre. It's a very small moment, but it says a lot about where his character is mentally. Normally, if Aemond faced enemies, he'd simply mount Vhagar. Now he's preparing to fight like everyone else. Steel instead of dragonfire. Skill instead of overwhelming power. That alone makes him far more vulnerable than we've ever seen before. Of course, the obvious question is where Vhagar actually is. The trailer continues to avoid answering it, which probably means the mystery itself is important. Is the ancient dragon hunting across the Riverlands? Has she wandered off on instinct? Or is the show deliberately separating rider and dragon to force Aemond into becoming something more than just the man with the biggest dragon? Every episode seems to push that idea a little further. In fact, this might be one of the smartest changes the show has made compared to the books. Traditionally, Aemond's reputation comes from the destruction he causes while flying Vhagar across the Riverlands. But the series appears to be exploring something different. Instead of making Aemond personally responsible for every act of destruction, the trailer almost suggests that Vhagar herself has become an uncontrollable force of nature. Wherever she flies, devastation follows. That creates an interesting separation between rider and dragon, making their relationship feel far more complicated than before. At the same time, Harrenhal continues changing Aemond in ways he probably doesn't even realize. Just like Daemon before him, Aemond seems trapped in a place where every hallway, every ruined tower, and every dark corner forces him to confront something inside himself. Harrenhal has never been just another castle. Throughout House of the Dragon, it almost behaves like a living character. It reveals fears, regrets, ambitions, and hidden desires. Daemon left Harrenhal as a different man than when he arrived. Now the trailer hints that Aemond may be walking the exact same path. That brings us back to Alice Rivers. Once again, nearly every scene involving Aemond also includes her watching quietly from the background. She rarely speaks much, but somehow she always seems to understand exactly what's happening inside his mind. That's what makes her such an unpredictable character. Is she helping Aemond recover? Is she manipulating him? Or is she doing both at the same time? The trailer carefully avoids answering those questions, but it gives us another important clue. Aemond no longer looks consumed by rage the way he did earlier in the season. Instead, there's something calmer about him. Almost thoughtful. That doesn't necessarily make him less dangerous. In fact, it could make him far more dangerous. An angry warrior makes reckless decisions. A patient warrior waits for the perfect moment. And patience seems to be the recurring theme throughout this entire trailer. The Greens keep talking about waiting. Aemond Hightower speaks about the patient hunter. Even Aemond's storyline feels slower, quieter, and more deliberate than before. Instead of charging into battle, he's being forced to think, to adapt, to survive without relying on dragonfire every second. There's another subtle detail worth noticing. Every time the trailer cuts to Aemond, the atmosphere changes completely. The music becomes quieter. The pacing slows down. The camera lingers on his expressions instead of showing action. That usually means the writers want the audience to pay attention to his emotional journey, rather than simply the next battle. They're building towards something much bigger than another sword fight. Of course, many fans are already wondering whether Alice Rivers is preparing Aemond for whatever comes next. Book readers know that Harrenhal plays a massive role in his future, but the show has never been afraid to change character arcs when it serves the story better. That means even longtime fans can't be completely sure where this relationship is heading. What we do know is that Aemond is becoming increasingly isolated. He's separated from Vhagar. He's separated from the Green Army. He's surrounded by visions, mysteries, and a woman whose true intentions remain impossible to read. That's a dangerous combination for anyone, especially someone carrying the emotional scars Aemond has carried since childhood. By the end of these trailer scenes, one thing becomes very clear. The greatest battle Aemond faces in episode May 6 not involve dragons or armies at all. It may be the battle between the man he used to be and the man Harrenhal is slowly turning him into. And if he finally emerges from that castle as a stronger, calmer, and more patient version of himself, then losing Vhagar for a while may not actually weaken him. It may be the very thing that makes him even more dangerous when they're finally reunited. If there is one message the episode 6 trailer keeps repeating over and over again, it's this. The Greens are no longer fighting with emotion, they're fighting with patience. And that could make them more dangerous than they've ever been before. Earlier in the season, many of their plans depended on brute force, surprise attacks, or simply relying on powerful dragons. But now everything feels much more calculated. Every conversation, every short scene, and every line of dialogue points toward a strategy that has been quietly unfolding for weeks. The best example is Aemond Hightower's line near the end of the trailer. He says that the patient hunter gets the kill. At first, it sounds like a simple motivational speech for his soldiers. But the more you think about it, the more it feels like the entire Green strategy has changed. Hunters don't attack the moment they see their prey. They wait until escape is impossible. They force their target into making mistakes, and only then do they strike. When we compare that idea to everything happening around Rhaenyra, it suddenly starts making sense. Every problem inside King's Landing seems to be pulling her attention in a different direction. The attacks on the gold cloaks continue. The people are becoming more frustrated. Supplies remain a concern. Fear is spreading throughout the streets. None of these situations are large enough to destroy her on their own. But together they create constant pressure. That's exactly how a patient hunter works. One of the trailer's smartest editing choices is how it keeps switching between the Green War Council and the growing unrest inside King's Landing. Even though these scenes happen in different places, the trailer almost connects them as if one is causing the other. It creates the impression that someone behind the scenes is carefully pulling the strings. Whether that's completely true or simply clever trailer editing, the effect is the same. The Greens look like they're controlling the pace of the conflict without even entering the city. Then we have Daemon's undercover mission. Instead of leading dragon attacks, he's disguised as a gold cloak, searching through the streets himself. That alone tells us how serious the situation has become. Daemon isn't chasing armies, he's chasing information. Someone inside King's Landing is operating in the shadows. And even Daemon realizes finding that person may be more important than winning the next battle. This is where the trailer quietly introduces another interesting possibility. What if the attacks on the gold cloaks aren't random at all? What if they're part of a much larger effort to weaken Rhaenyra from within? Every guard removed creates another opening. Every rumor spreads more panic. Every act of violence makes the city trust its queen a little less. Eventually, people stop believing their ruler can protect them. That may actually be the Greens' greatest weapon, not dragons but doubt. Another character worth paying attention to is Hugh Hammer. The trailer shows him flying Vermithor over Tumbleton once again, but something feels different this time. He's not attacking.